Hey, welcome back. I was thinking maybe instead of, since it's so quick, I mean 1 hour feels quite quick now, because in the past I did like 2 hours. Maybe I can do a quick review using my copy sheets to talk about the group 2, 3, and 4. Just a quick recap for those who have been following. Maybe this is okay. Let me set up myself. Give me a moment. So let's start with group 2, I guess. I know we're skipping through, but I'm just trying to find something. So in group 2, there were the alphabet V, W, H, and K. But I'll start with this because I probably don't have all the time. So if you want to revisit, this is a good time to revisit. Now, first of all, you have in this group is actually a double entry, double turn entry group. So what it means is this is this little thing. It's a double turn entry, and first of all, it starts with a hairline going up, and it's slightly above the X height. This hairline, you go up, curve to your right, and lift. Then you want to come down, press, and lift. Then you want to curve and come up. Now notice this up, this stroke should be higher than the top of this loop. Okay, then you start the same which we learned earlier, the line of universal beauty, starting from thin, thickest, back to thin, curve into a ball terminal, and then you press. Now we will then start from here, skip through, curve and on slant, and lift. When I come up, I'll think about the oval here. The next is to add the synthetic shade, just a tiny little shade here. Okay, so that's the letter H. I'll write one more time. Danger of touch up here. I shouldn't do so many times. Okay. A bit heavy. So that's to show you don't touch up so many times. K. So letter K. One of my favorite alphabet, because obviously my name is start with a K. My twin sister is Kalo, start with a K. My dog has a K, Cola. Lift, come up. Notice that this line is higher, and also notice that this is shorter than the left hand side. Okay, so if I call this A and B, A is longer than the B. Then you start thin, thick, thin, come up, draw the ball terminal, lift, and press. Now you come down, add pressure, go thin, and lift. Come here and lift. Thin, thickest, back to thin. It has to start with the hairline because that is a seamless connection here. Then you want to exit thinking about the oval. Now you can come back here, retrace and draw the ball terminal, and by pressing the dot. And in this K, if you want to, you can add a synthetic shade tiny bit here. What I did is I would just rotate my pen and then press on it. Okay, let's do one more time. I make my lifting more dramatic to show you. I usually don't lift so high up, but because for demonstration I think it's easier if I lift higher. I might have made this a little bit too dramatic, so I can touch up. Okay, then I'll come back here, draw the ball terminal, press, like that. So notice that in terms of the spacing, you want, they're pretty balanced. So if you imagine this, okay, so you don't want it to go further, this downstroke, you don't want to bring it too far away, and make sure it is parallel, which is very important for the letter K. So you want this line to be on slant. Okay, now the next one is I and J. It's in another group, okay, called the cat's eye group, because it has the shape of a cat eye. So we did this exactly last Wednesday. We can recap it here. You want to start from a thin and then thickest and back to thin. It's a line of universal beauty, or the beauty line. Okay, then you want to make sure you kind of like scoop it to the left. Okay, it's not very flat. Add pressure, lift, come up like that. There are quite a few ways. Remember last time we talked about the different possibility of writing. So I have the piece of paper somewhere here. Bear with me. Sorry guys. I have it here. Yep. This is from last time. So you can come down and lift and come up. You can come down, lift, and then you come down. The third method, you can come down, come up, lift, and add the synthetic shade. So there are many ways of writing. Just find the way that you like most, but you need to kind of try it out before knowing it. So I will repeat. So I'm using this copy sheet, so you can practice in between them. So that's the first method. The second method, okay, notice my hand was traveling, so I have an idea of where the oval will be. Now the last method, We then add the synthetic shade back. Okay, so I come down and up and lift and I do the synthetic shade. So that's a letter I. Now with J, lift up below the baseline and then exit. So you want to cross just below the baseline so that when you come out you can start from the baseline. Okay, then you add the synthetic shade here. And then you can do the cat eye. So you can either jump, lift here, or you can continue. Either way it's fine, as long as the way that you chose it's more comfortable for you. Synthetic shade. Just the second method. Okay. So if I'm going to join an alphabet, I will stop here for the exit stroke. So because I'm gonna join so I will have stop in the center instead of too high. But if it's on its own, the letter J, it's fine to be higher up. Now T and F is what we learned, so you can see me write them again. Thin, thickest, back to thin, above the baseline, bring it up and press. Thin, thicker, back to hairline. Rotate the page anti-clockwise. Add the shade below the hairline. Okay, I might have added too much pressure. You can have a little bit thinner. Okay, then I'll do directly the F because the T and the F is essentially the same. And rotate the paper. Put the shade on the right hand side, back to standard angle. You want to bring it up, skip through, come out, make a loop, and come down and pull the nib to your left. Okay, and make sure that they're parallel. Okay, I was trying to touch up, but I kind of mess it up. Now notice that here you have a gap, right? So notice this gap, they're kind of like balanced too. So here and here. And we talk about the angle of this oval will be more this way instead of on the 55-degree slant. It's very important. I guess, yeah, so that's a quick recap. Do you guys have any questions or anything that I can help with? It can also be about tools, inks and nibs. I can give some recommendation if you need to. So currently I am using Leonard EF Principle. This is my favorite nib. I buy in box because I use it all the time. the pen holder I'm using today is by Louis Creations. It's a little bit small. It's for me when I travel out, but it's very cute. Usually I love Michael Sells pen holder as well, so you might have seen me posting about his pen. So these are the one that I have it at home. I use it all the time. I prefer light pen holder, meaning not too heavy, because I'll definitely feel tired if I use a heavy holder. If you're using long acrylic, you know, these are more acrylic holder, and if they're very long, they get heavier. So I don't tend to like them because it makes my arms sore very quickly, and so I want to avoid that. And I like wood because it has a good weight. Different types of wood will weight slightly different. Ideally is you clean your pen holder often, but I don't, so you have lots of ink. Usually I use Warna ink to practice with, and I like to mix my Warna ink a little bit darker so I can see the thick and thin lines, the contrast. So someone asked me, Annie asked me, hey Kalo, I like to ask how do you clean your nib? Oh, okay. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the whole process. So when I have a new nib, like that, okay. So you have a new nib, and when you're using it, you apply it into. So this is how I will teach in my workshop. So let me get a piece of blank paper. Okay, so I will be holding the nib with my right hand because I'm right-handed and I don't want to drop the nib, because I know that if I drop the nib onto the ground, the tip may accidentally hit the ground and damage, so it will be a waste. So I like to hold it with my right hand, and I like to hold it with my index finger touching the back of the nib, and my thumb is on top. Now using my left hand, I will hold the pen holder and I will slot it in, okay? And now once it's in, I change by putting my index finger into the tunnel and put my thumb on top. In this way, with this grip, I have a better hold. I hold like better grip of the nib. So I push until the tail sticks out a little bit. Now depending what nib you're using, it is important that you have anything that is straight edge, right? So you want the nib to be aligned. So with this pen holder, in fact, I want the center point to be aligned. It's really hard to show at the angle. Now this nib is a little bit tiny as well. Maybe using this pen holder is a better. I still have a bit of gap. The ideal way is the nib would be touching the center of the center of this pen holder. So let me describe better. So I put a straight edge in the center, and you want the tip to be touching aligned. Now because this nib is very small for the pen holder, and if I use a nickel G, you should be able to see it. Okay. Now this pen holder was adjusted for the EF nib. Somehow with Michael Sells pen holder you can still put in a nickel G, but I would tend to use one pen holder for one nib, you know, this one brand of nib, instead of mix and match. Now you see, now aligning it, it will touch. Okay, so the point should touch the top. Now what happened just now is using the smaller EF nib, it doesn't touch. That's okay still. The other way you can look at it, it's by holding up the nib, holding up the point pen holder. Let me bring some light. Okay. Now if you, it's a little bit hard to see, right? Because it's so dark. Let's see if this works. Okay. Too dirty. Now the idea, what I learned from Michael, is you want to hold it, then the point should be touching the top of here. So you want to really close your eyes, and this point will be touching the top part of this foot here. Okay, so you can try with your pen holder at home. Now, sorry, it goes quite long. Now, once you insert the new nib, okay, because your finger has been touching it, and usually what happens is there are oil coming from the factory to protect the nib from rusting, and also your natural human finger oil. It's unavoidable. And what happens is when you dip into the ink, this is my ink, and the ink doesn't stick onto the nib very well. You see, it's quite patchy. Okay, put more light. One more time, and dip it, and it forms little dots. So that means you need to prepare the nib. You need to remove the oil. One thing you can use directly is using the ink that you have. So with water ink, it's quite a diluted ink, meaning that the ink is not very thick. You can still use the ink to do this and rub a few times to remove the oil with your finger and the tissue. Now, because it's not a very thick ink, meaning that it takes some time. Okay, when I dip again, you see the ink cover a little bit better. Ooh, just get a piece of hair. It covers a little bit better, but not great yet, right? So you can repeat the same process many times. Now, the quickest method that you can do is using toothpaste. You can rub some toothpaste on top and the bottom, like real toothpaste. I don't have it on the table at the moment, but you rub it and then clean it with tissue and some water. Okay, use some water, dip it into it, and then clean it. Now, because I've been cleaning the nib a few times, so hopefully when I dip it, what you want is a better coverage. Okay, let's see if it's sorry, it doesn't really focus so well. Okay, you see the ink cover better, a thinner layer on top of the nib. Okay, yeah, and of course you want to avoid ink getting into the flange, because any ink go in, it's hard to clean up and it's easy to rust. But the idea is you want the ink to have a nice thin layer on the top and the bottom. And when you write, let's just grab a piece of paper. You should allow the ink to come out gradually. Okay, so that will be nice. So this is how I prepare the nib. Every time when I use it, if I touch it with my finger, you know, when I remove it, I always use my finger reverse, put my index finger on top and bring it out. If you have some ink inside, you can remove it. Now this is one little trick. If you get ink inside the flange, you can push the nib down, like pulling it on the other side out. It is quite tricky, but you can. Maybe a bit difficult with my slippery hand, but I usually use a clip, like at the studio I have these clips, and I hold on to it and I pull it out, and it kind of like, it's like a piece of thread that go through the needle, and you can clean the inside a little bit. Okay, do you use a specific flange for the EF, or do you just shape the flange? So when I have a pen holder, I will use it for a certain nib. So this is for EF. Actually, most of my pen holders are fixed for EF nib, except the one that when I'm teaching. So this one comes with my starter kit. It will fit very well with a nickel G, because I teach beginner class. I use a nickel G, so it will be like that. Okay, does that help? Some people have like multiple pen holders. They might like a Hunt 101. They can fix it to a Hunt 101. The reason is because if you use the same pen holder for different size of nibs, the problem is the flange can get very loose quickly over time, because if you stuff a nickel G, it's obviously the curvature is it's wider than an EF nib, then it expands the flange a little bit and make it a bit loose. And if you use an EF nib in the same pen holder, the nib may come off. For this Lewis pen, it's great. This is a bullock flange. What it means it actually fits. You can see here. Oops, sorry, it's really hard to zoom. Yes, okay, figure it out. You see there are multiple, the two insert, depends what size of nib I'm using, I can insert, but I'm still using an EF for all my practice. Some people like Hunt. I have Hunt as well. Hunt 101 is quite popular. Excuse me, I found the hairline not as thin as the EF. Just a personal observation. Okay, any questions? So yeah, that's how I clean the nib. And don't forget to place it in the dry area. I usually use a nickel G box. I have different nibs. You know, I used to label them, but now I don't. So you put the nib back in a box and close it so that it's airtight and doesn't get rust so quickly. Okay, no problem. So I guess if you guys don't have questions, then I'll call it a night. And thanks so much for joining. And I will be coming back next Wednesday, and we'll do the next group of the alphabet. And you will be learning, the next group is P, B, and R in this group. Okay, P, B, R. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good night. Bye-bye.